This is the Full Count Media podcast. It is not going to follow like the traditional podcast criteria. It's going to be one topic, short 15 minutes from my perspective and from his perspective, which we will get into. My name is Alden.
My name is Jim.
And I'm a stats nerd.
And I am not.
When I started watching baseball, like intently, like really getting into the numbers and everything and paying attention to players across the league, it was, in I guess the early to mid 2000s when sabermetrics and OPS and Moneyball and everything was really big and everybody was looking into the advanced stats. So when I invested into it, I got really deep into the advanced stats right away, and it's been what I've used even while I was playing to evaluate myself.
When I got into baseball, it was around the steroid era. People were hitting home runs. It was a lot more contact. It was a lot more power hitting. It was a lot more eye test, how it works, how it feels. You trust your eyes. You trust what you see as a product. You don't necessarily look at a guy who's hitting above 300 or right around 300 and be like, that guy's the better guy. You go, he looks like he's got a better swing. That's the guy I like.
All right. So for that example actually works really well that you just use the average versus the swing and everything, because today, our first episode, we're going to be talking about who each of our top 5 hitters going into the 2024 season are, based on the criteria that we each use to evaluate talent. Jimmy, do you want to start it off with what you use to evaluate talent?
Well, I use the eye test, the vibes, the way the teams are, and the way everything's kind of constructed. So with that, my number 5 is Shohei.
Okay. Interesting. So the way that I look at this kind of stuff is again with advanced stats. So I use WRC plus and OPS plus. WRC plus and OPS plus, they use 100 as a baseline average. So they measure it by percentage over. So OPS obviously is on base plus slugging.
Mm-hmm.
OPS plus is just takes that number and converts it to compared to an average of 100. So if a player has a 140 OPS plus, they're 40% better than league average. Just makes it easier to look at that number and just go, oh, okay. And then WRC plus is just weighted runs created. So it uses each way you get on base has a different value. And it values, so like a single is more valuable than a walk, a double is more valuable than a single, a triple is more valuable, in the sense that if there is already in the sense of creating runs.
Okay. Yeah. There is, because a single and a walk could arguably be the same thing, but I guess if there's a single with a guy on second comparatively to a walk. Okay.
Right. And this is talking about runs created.
Yeah.
So this is obviously, and that again is compared to a 100-point league average.
Mm-hmm.
So it just takes everything and it compares it to a set average every time. I like that. It gives you the percent they are above average. I also use isolated power, which is just you subtract their you subtract their batting average from their slugging percentage. I know you're laughing at me. This stuff
I
is
am.
so
a lot of this can also just be answered by the eye test.
For sure, I guess, but I don't know. This is you don't need to have good eyes for this. You have the numbers to back up what your eyes don't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can be a scout. And that's a different conversation, though. We don't have to go into that. But so you subtract batting average from slugging, and basically it just shows how good you are at hitting extra base hits.
Okay. So with all that being said,
I have one more. Sorry, and then I use WOBA, which is just kind of like WRC plus. It's a weighted value of how they get on base and everything like that. So my number 5 is Mookie Betts.
Okay.
He is my number 5 because he ranks in the top 5 in WOBA and WRC plus. and OPS since the start of 2022. We kind of all know what Mookie does with the bat.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit of an eye test thing, but also an average thing. He
Mm-hmm.
always finishes with a high average. He doesn't walk a ton, but
Right.
his walk and strikeout percentage are 4% apart, and that's a really small margin. So
Okay.
even though he might not walk a ton, he doesn't strike out a ton either. He's putting bat on ball. He's
I'd rather.
effective when he puts bat on ball.
Yeah.
So that is why Mookie Betts is my number 5.
Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Freddie Freeman.
Okay.
Freddie got into my top 5 because, like Mookie, he's 4th in WRC plus since since the start of 2022. So going back 2 years, not just 1 year.
Yep.
That's what I did for all my stats. Everything is going back 2 years.
Makes sense.
And then he's 3rd in WOBA. He's hitting 328 over the last 2 seasons with a 108 doubles.
He's got to be like
That's
the leader in
that,
doubles
and
or something like that.
he has 28 more than the second place person. Yeah.
Okay.
And he still has 50 home runs, and he's 30 over that time, and he's 34 years old.
He's still got a few good years in him still.
He's an ageless wonder, dude.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So that's why he made my top 4. Who is your top 4, Jim?
My number 4 is Mookie Betts. A lot of the stats that you threw out, which is the example of an eye test where he doesn't walk, he doesn't strike out a lot, but he puts a lot of bat on ball, he hits the home runs. And my thought process is the fact that he's going to be transitioning into an infielder role.
Mm-hmm.
His body will be a little bit less tired to be able to put bat on ball either a little bit harder, a little bit farther, maybe get a couple more steals in the season this year. I think with him not being in the outfield anymore, it'll actually increase how he is as a hitter off of an eye test, at least in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's obviously I also have him in my top 5, so I'm not going to disagree with anything you just said. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Aaron Judge.
Okay.
Again, eye test. He's a big guy. He'll be able to he puts a decent amount of bat on ball, but he's in Yankee Stadium, so he doesn't need to get as much contact to have it go for home runs.
It's also worth saying, I think, that he strikes out a decent amount.
Yep.
But umpires also don't know what his strike zone is.
Yeah, he's 6'8", 6'9", something like that.
I saw a stat that like some ridiculous percentage of pitches that are below the zone to him are called strikes.
Yeah.
Like a ridiculous amount, to the point where he's pulling up his socks in the middle of games to try to show umpires that, like, yo, my knees are all the way up here.
Yes.
So,
but with Yankee Stadium, with a lineup change, with adding Juan Soto, if they still have Judge hit 3 in their lineup, he's going to have most likely Soto hit in front of him and then somebody else. He'll have a lot of people on base in front of him, which will force more pitches to be hittable for him. I
think what I saw was Glaber, Soto, Judge, Stanton, Rizzo as the top 5.
So with Glaber and Soto in front of him, that's going to be good to start there. But with Glaber and Soto in front of him, most likely one of the two of them will get on a high percentage of the time, which will force a lot of strike zone pitching to Judge to either try to get him out or low in the strike zones to force a double play. But he has the ability to lift the ball on a low pitch, so that might actually work out a lot in his favor. So he's my number 3.
All right. My number 3 is another Yankee.
You got Soto?
The newest Yankee.
Juan
Soto.
Okay.
So Juan Soto has 55 more walks over the last 2 years than the second place guy, which is Kyle Schwarber.
Okay.
He had a down year last year for his standards.
Yep.
And he still, for the last 2 years, is outside the top 40 in strikeouts.
Okay.
So he's first by 55 walks,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not even in the top 40 for strikeouts.
Which is a very understandable why he's a top 3 for you.
He has 62 home runs over the last 2 years, including a down 2023. But he's at Yankee Stadium now for half his games.
I was just about to say that, yep.
And he's a lefty.
That 300-foot short porch out in right field is going to be his new best friend.
If he took all of his at-bats over the last 2 seasons at Yankee Stadium, he would have had 109 home runs.
Total or added?
Total.
But
that's if he took every single at-bat at Yankee Stadium, which obviously he's only going to take half of them.
Yeah.
But if you take half of that number,
it's an additional 50 home runs, at least.
We'll say 54.
Yeah.
And then you take half of the number he hit between this year and last year, assuming that those were on the road. I haven't looked at the numbers. So 31 and 50, that's 88 home runs. And that would have been good for third in all of baseball over the last 2 years. Behind only Judge and Schwarber.
So Soto's got a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Expectation to happen while he's in Yankee Stadium now.
I would say so, but I think it's also expectation that he's almost guaranteed to live up to.
It's a lot easier comparatively to someone that might be a righty at Fenway with the wall or something like that.
Exactly. Like sending Juan Soto, a very good hitter, into Yankee Stadium versus sending Trevor Story, a very good hitter, into Fenway Park.
Mm-hmm.
The advantages are not the same.
Correct.
So
I'm also going to be curious now with Soto coming to the AL East, how he's going to do with that short wall in right field at Fenway.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Oh yeah, I mean that's another ballpark that he has just.
Mm-hmm. He's going to have a lot of the shorter right field porches to play with out in the AL East.
Yeah. I don't think Baltimore's a good right field for hitters, but
it's not the worst though.
No, he's going to be fine no matter where he plays. So
it's true. Who's your number 2?
For number 2, I have Ronald Acuna Jr.
Interesting. Okay.
I have him at my number 2 because he might not have had the greatest 2022. That's kind of keeping him out of like the top 3, the top 4 for the last 2 years. But like, you can't really discount what he did last year.
Right.
He literally walked more than he struck out over 600 at bats,
which you don't see very much in this day and age.
Especially when you're striking out 10% of the time.
And he's making contact with the ball a lot. He's hitting the home runs. He's doing everything right by a hitter's standpoint.
Well, and I mean the stealing bases thing was cool, and like it definitely gave him the edge over Mookie in the MVP voting.
Yeah,
a little bit. I mean, I think he would have won it anyway, but he definitely had a little bit of an edge coming from that. But he also hit 40 home runs and set the record for StatCast for the hardest ball ever hit.
Which was? Do you have the number by him?
It was like 122 miles an hour.
I was going to say, I thought it was something along those lines, yeah.
It was a 3-0 pitch at Dodger Stadium, and I remember he just hit an absolute miss.
I remember that, yeah. He teed off on that.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like in the middle of the zone. It was like on the outside corner. But so I think he'll move back a little bit in 2024 just because 2023 was so ridiculous.
Okay.
But I think other numbers are going to take a step forward because I don't think he has that pressure of trying to steal 73 bases this year. Like, I think that he just had like like a motivation to be like he saw that the bases were bigger. He knew that he had the wheels. He knew that he had the power. It's like, let's be the first one to hit 40-70. Let's be the first one to hit 30-70. Let's be the first one to hit 40-60. Like
Yeah.
all this stuff. So I think that now that he's done all that and he kind of had fun last year,
He's going to bring it back.
I think he's going to kick it. No, not rear back the stolen bases and kick it into another gear batting.
Yeah. All right.
Because he didn't take the extra base very often last year. He would have had a whole bunch of extra doubles and triples and all kinds of stuff, but he just decided not to.
Right.
Because he wanted to steal the base instead.
My number 2 is Freddie Freeman.
Okay. All right.
My eye test, I like Freddie. Freddie's he's a good person. He's a good hitter. He's great with the doubles stat that you mentioned. The amount of bat on ball, just for the eye test and vibes that I get from watching the game, the bat on ball, the amount of times that he gets doubles, the impact he has on the game for the Dodgers specifically, but overall as an MLB game, if you want to watch a hitter, specifically a lefty, you want to watch Freddie Freeman.
Absolutely.
He's short, sweet, got the power. He's up there in age, so he's still able to do what he's doing is what I look for in my eye test.
Yeah.
And you threw out all the numbers, so I can keep it short and sweet with Freddie, but Freddie is my number 2 for all the good reasons. My number 1, you kind of gave all the numbers that I don't need to do anymore, because my number 1 is Acuna. So
okay,
he did a lot for the game last year. He was doing all the stuff for the 40-60s, 40-70s, and in order to do all of that, you need to be a good contact hitter, you need to be a good power hitter, you need to be able to make contact with the ball, put the ball in play, make things happen. If you can do that, you benefit the team, you benefit the league, you benefit yourself. He did get the MVP last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you do all that. In my opinion, going into this upcoming season, I don't see him slowing down per se to make him. I think he has a chance to go back to back as an MVP. That's where I'm going.
All right.
So he's my number 1.
All right. For my number 1, I'm just going to preface with this. So this is all since 2022.
I'm going to preface your preface with, if it is a person that happens to be on your sweatshirt, this is rigged by you.
Not at all.
Okay. Go like this so everybody can tell where I'm getting with it. He's a Phillies fan. I assumed he was going with Harper.
No. So my number 1 hitter in all of baseball going into 2024, since 2022, he's first in home runs. He's first in OPS. He's first in WRC plus. He's first in isolated power. He's first in WOBA. He's first in total offense. And his name is Aaron Judge.
Really?
Really, really. He's been that goddamn good. And I don't know how. I mean, I know he had the foot injury, and I know that that's going to have to be managed for the rest of his career because it was like kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But, dude. All right. So we're talking honorable mentions now. We've got 2 each, right?
I have 2, yes.
I also have 2. So I will give my first one to start. My sneaky honorable mention is, well, I guess not sneaky. I guess, yeah, I mean, kind of, but Yordan Alvarez.
Okay. I thought about him.
Of the Houston Astros.
Yep, I thought about him.
He's second in WRC plus, WOBA, and isolated power all since 2022, right behind Aaron Judge. He really just needs to shake the injury monkey off his back. Give us 150 games.
Yep.
I think that would easily put him in contention, at least for top 5 hitters this year, the way he destroys the baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my first honorable mention.
Mine is Juan Soto.
Okay.
So I thought about putting Soto in the top 5 with the concept that he's going to Yankee Stadium. He's got the power. He's got the He's got that thing he does in the box that I don't like.
That drives
Uh,
all the women crazy.
yeah, but he's got the power. He's got the ability to do it. He's got the ability to be in the top five. With him going to Yankee Stadium, with him being the two hitter potentially, he's going to get a lot more at bats. If he can play 150 plus games, he has a real high chance to do very well and to easily be a top five at the end of the year. Who's your
Uh,
other honorable?
it's Bryce Harper.
Of course it is.
Uh, I mean, but let's be honest.
Yes, we can be honest. He's a good hitter.
He won the MVP in 2021.
He
And
did. I'm not denying the fact that he's not a good hitter. He's a great hitter. He's got very good plate discipline. He puts the ball in the play. He does what he needs to do. Um,
he's also clutch as all hell.
this is true,
Which, like, I guess isn't a measurable thing, but like when you
but that's an eye
go,
test measurable thing, though.
absolutely, when he comes up to the plate in a big moment, he delivers more than he doesn't, and that's clutch.
Yes.
The definition of clutch. But so I have him there because, again, he won the MVP 2 seasons ago. He was arguably the best hitter in baseball, or
Yeah.
at least in the National League 2 years ago. So he tore his UCL in 22.
Mm-hmm.
That forced him to DH, but it was also different. He
Mm-hmm.
had injured elbow for the entire year. He got hit in the face with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. And then this past year, he's coming off of surgery.
Yeah.
No, this past year, he's coming off of that surgery, and he doesn't come back until May. He doesn't have a spring training. And
He comes
he
back and does very well.
he did incredibly well. He had a high 290s average, and over the last 2 years, despite all of that stuff that he's gone through, he's still in the top 10 in all of those WOBA, WRC plus, OPS, all those things.
Do all those stats take into consideration the amount of games he played comparatively to other people, or is it based on like
It's based on the
100
games.
games?
It's based on the games that he played in.
Gotcha.
But he is still a qualified hitter over those last 2 seasons. I had it restricted to only qualified hitters.
Yeah.
And he has still taken 3.1 at bats per team game played. So
Okay.
that would be my second honorable mention.
My second is Corbin Carroll.
Okay. So I was really torn. I was honest to God. So I had Alvarez, Harper, Shohei, and Carroll in like the four that I was choosing from to put on my honorable mentions. Harper was a given.
It was for you. For you, it's a given. Yes,
it's a given, right? I'm using him. So then it came down to those three, and I mean, Shohei's a freak of nature. I know that he's an incredibly good hitter, but I think that these other people do things a little better, like in the average department. Like he's hit 250 a couple times. He's done this. Like he is a home run dependent hitter, and he's going to hit his home runs. That's going to happen. But like he's a power guy. That's what he thrives in. So like to put him over someone like Freddie, who does everything at the plate well,
right for you.
That was just difficult for me to do. But I was definitely between Carroll and Shohei and Jordan for that.
Carroll had a great season last year. He's very young. He's gonna learn plate discipline. He puts the bat on the ball. He gets on base a lot. For the Diamondbacks to still have a kid like that, he is going to do very well. I also think with Shohei not pitching for the Dodgers this year potentially, and then having a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit, even easier set of people he's going to have to face in the NL West. Well, some of the people left, some of the people joined. It's going to be.
I mean, the Dodgers have a chance to have like the best rotation in all of baseball history if everyone stays healthy.
If everyone stays healthy, but then also the Dodgers also have a habit of falling short.
And they're no one on their pitching staff has ever proven to be healthy, so that's kind of a big thing too.
I don't want to knock the Dodgers.
No, not at all.
Because I'm a Giants fan, but
no, for sure. And I think the Giants also have some really good pitching.
They have a good pitcher. Yeah,
they have a couple back there, but I mean Logan Webb is definitely like the name. But
yeah,
But either way, yeah, I like.
Who do you think is going to fall out of the top 5 on your end?
This is so unpopular, and again, I don't. So this is a personal thing. I really think that my top five is kind of set. I don't think that anybody's going to slip all the way out of it. What I
Mm-hmm.
do think that there could be some reshuffling,
Yeah.
and again, people are going to think that this is a bias thing because I'm a Phillies fan, but it's really not. I think that if anyone has the potential to maybe scoop back a couple spots, and again, I'm not saying out of the top five, just back a couple spots, I think it's Acuna.
How far back do you think he's going to fall?
Like 4 or 5. Like this isn't like I'm not talking about he slips back to 8, 9, 10, 11. Like
Yeah.
I'm saying he goes from 2 on my list to 4, which like in all retrospect, that's going from last year's Ronald Acuna Jr. to last year's Freddie Freeman, which
Right.
oh
Isn't
darn.
bad.
But if you go back to 2021 and you include his 2021 season in those stats, so you go back one extra year to year 3, he's outside the top 10 in most of these offensive categories. And I know that
How
a lot,
many years? How many years
well,
was he in the league for that though?
I think he came in 2018. He's been in for a while.
Okay.
Um, but really, like, and again, I'm not saying that a lot of people are going to say that, like, yes, but he's matured into the hitter that he became last year and this, that, and the other thing. But we also saw some ridiculous seasons out of him before 2021, not obviously to the degree that he did last year, but he regressed in 2021 in comparison to the previous seasons. And then he's had 2 amazing seasons in a row. I mean, 2022 was like good, but like this one was incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think if there's anyone on this list that's set to drop a little bit, just simply because of unsustainability,
Yeah.
it's Acuna, just because of how good he was.
I think my slip is a kind of might have an interesting take on it. My slip is Shohei out of the top 5
Okay.
because we have Soto, we have Carroll, and we have the others that we have both honorably mentioned. My other thought process is his elbow going to be okay? And then if he heals all the way through, does he start talking to the Dodgers about going back into the rotation right before playoff season? I know he's not supposed to, but if he shifts his change from being just a hitter to being that two-way player again, I think it can easily impact him coming out of the top 5 as a hitter, just as a hitter, not as a player overall,
No,
but as a top 5 hitter.
because he's got to focus so much on building back that ability to pitch and
Yeah,
yeah.
I think by the All-Star break, if his arm isn't where it needs to be, or if his health isn't where it needs to be for him to consider the transition to be a hitter or to be a pitcher, and he
They're
just
out for the year.
focuses, huh?
They'll shut the pitching idea down for the year, and he'll do it over the off season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if they shut it down by the halfway point of the season, I think he might stay in the top 5 because then he has nothing but to worry about as being a DH
Okay.
because he's not going to field any actual fielding positions.
Right.
So I think the All-Star break will be a tell if he stays in the top 5 as a hitter on my list or if he falls back.
Okay. So just one more time to recap our top 5. I have Mookie, Freddie Freeman, Juan Soto, Acuna, and Judge in reverse order.
My 5-1 are Shohei, Mookie, Judge, Freeman, Acuna.
I mean, that's honestly
We have we have 4 of the 5 people just in different numbers. We have the same thoughts on either my honorable of Soto is in your list, and we have the same thoughts on honorable mentions. And I think if we were to have broadened it to a top 10, I think all of our 10 would have been the same guys, just in different orders.
I would agree with that. That puts us at our
That's
9 out of
9.
10.
That's 9 out of 10. If we considered them as an honorable mention, that floats somewhere between 6, 7, 8, and 9 for those four guys. Off the
Off the
top of
top,
my head,
yeah, I was gonna say off the top of your head, who's your 10?
probably Simeon.
Okay, I was gonna go with Corey Seager.
That was
So
the other guy.
we're on the
Simeon or
same
Seager.
we're on the same team, you
Yeah.
know. But overall, what we're seeing is that, hey, guess what? The eye test, when used by someone who actually has a little
Ball
bit of
knowledge.
in baseball and some experience playing and watching and umpiring and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
it can be just as effective as using all the stats.
So
And you don't necessarily need all of them. You can it,
analytics aren't everything. They help, but they're not everything.
right, and there's nothing wrong with them. Again, we come to the same consensus
Mm-hmm.
more or less by using the analytics and by using the eye test.
Yep.
So the people that say that, hey, these new scouts don't understand how to read this kind of stuff, they're wrong. I mean, yes, by the eye test, you can't go out and just go scout a baseball player in person and go see and go say, yeah, you know what? I watched his swing 6 times over the last 2 days, and I have a feeling that we should draft this guy. But now nobody needs to do that. Scouts don't go anywhere to watch people. They pull up game film and they watch all the game film and they look at their numbers and they go, oh wow, look at that guy's on base percentage. That's crazy. He walks a ton and he's only in high school. What a good eye, what a good plate vision at such a young age. We should consider him on our draft board.
Yep.
Whereas 30 years ago it was, wow, I watched that guy draw 3 full counts, walk twice, and lay off some tough pitches. And so I know that he has a good eye.
Sign them up. Yep.
It's the same thing. It's just a different way of getting to the same conclusion.
Yep.
So that being said, we plan to try to do one of these episodes every week.
Yep.
Something comes up, we will notify everybody and keep everybody posted. But next week's episode will be the top 5 pitchers in baseball. I think we're going to limit it to starting pitchers just because when you start throwing in relievers, it does get a little wishy-washy. And we'll do it the same kind of way. You're going to do it based on the eye test, what you like to see, who does what well, and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to pull up all the stats beforehand, and I'm going to look everybody over and see what they've got over the last couple of years.
I think there might be a little bit of bias going into next week.
Maybe a smidge. I mean, there might be affiliate number 1. We'll see. It'll be close, though. I think that
there might be a Philly, there might be a Giant, there might be who knows what's going on.
Well, I mean,
there might be an overseas Bartolo Colon name drop that might happen too. But we'll go from there.
You see that Garrett Cole news?
No, I did not. But we should save that for next episode.
It's a little too pressing for that.
Go ahead.
He's getting an MRI done on his pitching elbow.
Interesting.
It is interesting. And again, it's something that we'll probably have more information on come next week. But I did feel like it was important to mention it.
Good to know now going into my list because I don't look up any of the stats going into it. And Garrett Cole is easily a top 5 pitcher.
House collapsing? Oh my god!
No, somebody dropped the controller that had a remote that had batteries in it.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Happens to be right above me, but Garrett Cole, I think, would have easily been a top 5. But we can have more information on that if he's still top 5, depending on that MRI going into next week.
Yep. All right. Yeah, that's gonna do it. So this was episode 1 of the Full Count Media podcast. And we will have a bunch more. We're going to have other stuff on the channel that you should look out for and all kinds of playlists. But until then, see ya.
Take it easy.